Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Story, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. I'm glad you're here with us today on NACTV. I'm Eoin Devereux, news and sports reporter with the Banner Press, welcoming you once again to the show. Always appreciate you taking a little bit of your time and spending it with us. Or again, should I say, spending it with me. I'm going to be flying solo once again this week. We have a few people out of the office on assignments. We have a few people out on vacation right now, well-deserved vacation time as well. So hopefully they'll be able to enjoy it. I got nowhere to go. Nobody's interested in seeing me for any extended period of time, so I'm always here. What else am I going to do with my day? And what else am I going to do with my night? And that goes into an interesting start to this week's edition of the Story Behind the Story. We've got the new edition of the paper out on the streets, as you can see. And as you can see right here, there's a little special thing you'll be able to see. A special insert that was put in at the last minute. For all of you, there was the election, of course, that just recently occurred. Municipal election for the entire region, all of Manitoba. Some very interesting races, some surprises. We were talking a little bit about that in the office this morning. Not just for in and around the Neepawa region, but in Winnipeg, in Brandon, up north. A lot of interesting sort of names that popped out and surprising names. But as for our local, let me tell you a little story first about how we were able to get this special insert into the paper. Our publication time, our publication date is every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. We get it printed. It's based out of Killarney, where they do a tremendous job of getting the physical representation of our work out to us and out onto the street for you. But again, there's a certain schedule. There's only so many printing presses in Manitoba nowadays. There's one in Killarney, there's one in Steinbach, and there's one in Winnipeg. And that's kind of it for southern Manitoba now. So Killarney has to do a lot of different papers. A lot of regional, rural papers rely on the Killarney Guide to get their product out onto the street. So we have a set time where we have to have it done. We have to have it sent off to Killarney so they can get it printed. And that works out great for almost 4 years at a time. The one week, though, that it doesn't work out is for the municipal elections, because unlike other elections, which occur on a Monday or on a Tuesday, the municipal elections are set in stone as happening every single Wednesday in October, Wednesday in October, every 4 years. So we used to have a print time of Thursday. We changed it a couple years ago because of issues with Canada Post. Don't get me started on that. And especially don't get Ken Waddell started on that, his issues with Canada Post over the years, because we've heard it from the big desk many a time about his thoughts on Canada Post, what they do, and especially what they can't do. But that's neither here nor there. So we decided to change our print date from Thursday at 2 o'clock to Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Like I said, for the most part, it works out nice, except for this. So we went to print. We weren't able to get the election results in the paper proper, as it were. But I went to Ken and I said to Ken, we can't wait a week to get these results out there. We're going to look like fools. And that's the truth. You know, even if it is a weekly newspaper, you want to get that information out as quickly as you can. And I don't want you to have to wait an entire week to find out who represents you for the next 4 years. So, you know, unfortunately, I opened up my big mouth. So the next question is, what are you going to do about it? So I sort of volunteered to step up. I came in Wednesday evening and sort of sat around waiting for the results to pour in from all over, and especially from Neepawa, because I wanted to get that information out to the people of Neepawa as soon as possible. So when they came in, we made up a sort of a printout of that, and we had it inserted into the paper individually, over 2,500 different sheets. And let me show you this very quickly. This is the sheet I'm talking about. Essentially between about 8 o'clock Wednesday evening to about 2 a.m. Thursday morning, I was working away, setting up this. Diane Warner as well helped with the template, did a tremendous job. I think visually it really pops, in my estimation. So Diane was able to get some of that workload off my plate during the day. Very appreciative of that. Thank you, Diane, for that. And then I sort of just had to wait around and get the results. The polls closed at 8. Unfortunately, the results didn't come until about 10:30-ish. Had to sort of sit around and wait, and Neepawa was one of the last ones to come in. So, but we were able to get it done, and we were able to get the results in. So when you pick up a paper in Neepawa, because we print about 8,000 copies of the Neepawa Banner Press that go all over. It's not just Neepawa. We go to Mundosa, we go to Gladstone, St. Rose, Carberry, any community in and around our region. You name it, we're there. So at the same time, I wanted to make sure that the Neepawa stuff was done because that's the name, the Neepawa Banner Press. With all due respect to those other communities, I was not going to be sticking around until 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning to get all that stuff done. So as you can see, once again, here's the printout of the Neepawa results. And there's some very interesting results. Now, if you can't see it from this perspective, don't worry. You can pick up a copy of the paper anywhere in the town of Neepawa, and they will be in there for this week. We're going to have full write-ups and full information on all the different election results in next week's edition of the paper. I assure you of that. But for this week, it's just going to be Neepawa. But if you're not in Neepawa and you want to find out who's representing you, you can still find out. Go online to mywestmen.ca. I was up last night punching all the information in there on the website, so you can see it there right now. You can go check it out. I hope that you do, because otherwise, what am I doing here? You know, I'm just sitting around sort of staring at computers, and as much as that would be fun, as much as it's nice to be paid for that, I hope that some of that time and effort is towards educating and enlightening you on some of the important details, especially of this election. Now, it's interesting to see, and most likely in next week's edition of the Banner Press, we're going to go in a little more in depth with some of the surprises of these results. So I hope that you will tune in. I look forward to sort of sitting down and sharing it with you. And hopefully you'll look forward to sort of hearing me babble on, as usual, about stuff that I think is good and stuff that's maybe not so good. Now let's get into the paper proper, as it were. I am very happy to be able to share this story that we have on the front page with you. I've been very much looking forward to this, not nearly as much as the people involved, but this has been 2 years in the making. They are so happy to be back. This is for the Neepawa Filipino Basketball League. They returned to action. They hit the hard court once again on this previous Saturday. It's the first time they've been able to do it since all the issues and all the regulations with the COVID-19 pandemic came into effect. They play their games every weekend at the high school gymnasium. But because of the pandemic, there were certain restrictions in place. They weren't allowed to assemble the same way. None of us were, really. And that was disappointing in so many different ways, especially for them. Actually, I shouldn't say them, because it's an inclusive league. Pardon me, my apologies. It's an inclusive league. It involves not just the new arrivals to our community, even though it's called the Neepawa Filipino Basketball League. It's inclusive to everyone. Anyone who enjoys the game of basketball can play. Don't think it's just a nationality thing. Canadians, representatives from all different communities and countries can participate in it, and they do. So they wanted to emphasize that very much, and you'll see that in the story. Rafael Flores, I had a chance to speak with him. He's one of the spokespeople for the league. He was so happy to speak to me about it, about the significance of the game to the nation, to the significance of its people, and how much fun they have, how they love to be able to get together in this way and participate in this sport. As big as hockey is for us here in Canada, or perhaps as big as football is for Brazilians or for the English, as big as American football is for the average American. Basketball is the passion of the Philippines, and they show it. And they especially showed it during the opening day ceremonies. Everyone was so happy. There was singing, there was dancing, there was celebration. That type of energy is just so engaging. And moving ahead, I really do genuinely hope that I'm going to be able to cover this on a weekly basis. I want to treat the Neepawa Filipino Basketball League just like I treat the MJHL, just like I treat the Tiger Hills Hockey League, just like I treat high school coverage. I want it to be something that is prominent within our paper. I want to be able to showcase something very special in our community with everyone in the community. And I think that's something that I look forward to doing. I remember a couple years ago, maybe it was a 2018 final, maybe 2017. Years just roll by, it seems. I went to the championship game between a pair of teams, and no word of a lie, the entire gymnasium was packed to capacity. The rafters were filled to capacity. There was standing room only. I would say there had to have been about 700-800 people in there, just spectators, just watching. And the energy was just amazing. I quite honestly wish we had some hockey games that had that type of energy. I wish our support for our football team had that type of energy as well. It was so intoxicating. It was something I was very happy to be a part of, and something quite honestly I'm very happy to be part of moving forward. So, and again, if you're a part of one of those teams, I'm going to be going and attending games as regularly as I can, but they're on the weekends, and let's be honest, I like to have weekends to myself every once in a while. So if you have any information, if you have pictures from any of these games, don't hesitate. Send them to me at sports@neepawabanner.com. It would be greatly appreciated. Any little support and help in each and every avenue would be appreciated. And that's not just for basketball. If you have hockey that you want me to sort of put a spotlight on, curling, I'd love it. Thank you very much. Send it all my way, and I will try my best to make sure that it gets in and on the pages. I'm the only one really for the most part involved with the Neepawa Banner Press right now in terms of writing that actually likes sports. So if you can help me out with that, that would be great. Otherwise, we got to fill it with boring council meetings. And, I'm trying to do everyone a favor, add a little bit of glitz and glamour to the paper every once in a while. So if you can help me out, I'll help you out on that too. All right, let's shift over. There's so many other things that we can share and talk about with you today. One of the items that I'm very glad we were able to track down was a story written by Casper Werhan. We got the update in terms of the Farm and Leisure Lottery. That is ongoing right now. It's great to be able to see. It is a big, huge contributor economically to the Beautiful Plains Medical Clinic. It's their most significant fundraiser that they do each and every year. They sell the lottery tickets. They had their early bird draw recently, and congratulations. The gentleman's name was Paul Wisnowski, was the gentleman based out of Eden who ended up winning the early bird. So he had the choice of either $10,000 cash or a $12,000 sort of spending sort of credit at, if I remember correctly, Enns Brothers. Enns Brothers, a huge supporter, so many different businesses, in fact, huge supporters of the Farm and Leisure Lottery. Obviously, he decided to take the cash. And quite honestly, if I'd won, I'd have taken the cash too, most definitely. Farm equipment and sort of sport equipment and all this types of things they have at Enns Brothers is great, but cash money, quite honestly, I'll say it, that's where it's at in my estimation. So we had a chance to speak with Paul. Casper got a couple comments from him and from Mary Ellen Clark, who is just so important to the Leisure Lottery. I mean, she still to this day serves as the lottery chairperson, and she puts in so much time and effort. It's that personal project, that personal pet project that she has, and she puts the time in, and she does such a tremendous job with it. There's so many people like Mary Ellen in this community that put the hours in for their own personal sort of dedication. Off the top of my head, I'm just thinking, for example, Mary Ellen, and with the Titans over the years. Ross McBride as well, huge supporter of the Neepawa Titans over the years. Kate Jackman Atkinson, so dedicated towards the Roxy Theatre. And even myself on a personal level. I've spent several years as a board member of Neepawa Tourism with so many other people who are dedicated to it. Marilyn Crew, for example, Katie Martin, Jeff Descender, Barb Bohm. I'm forgetting names, and I apologize for that, because there's still people involved with that who are so committed and see the good in Neepawa and want to share that with people. And that's amazing about this community, to see so many different people with so many different passions and fighting and pushing and doing what they can to make sure those passions and make sure those projects that matter to them are successful. So a little bit of a side, I ran it a little bit on that. It had really nothing to do with the Farm and Leisure Lottery. I do that from time to time, if you're a loyal watcher of the show, you'll know that from time to time. So if you want to get a little more information specifically on what Casper was able to get written up, you can find it in this week's edition of the Banner Press. This week's edition as well, haven't mentioned it yet, it's a two-parter. It's the A section and it's the B section. We got the Farmer's Advocate every month. The Farmer's Advocate comes out. This is the week for it. Between you and me, just between you and me, in October and November, it gets a little difficult to get good content for the Farmer's Advocate. Everybody's busy. I mean, in October, most definitely, that last-minute harvest is on the go. November, everybody's shut down. Everybody's worn out. Everybody's focusing on other things, going through the winter. So it's hard to get that content. So I'll be honest with you, just between you and me, and don't tell Ken this, but if you wanted to skip this month's Advocate, I wouldn't blame you. Except for one thing, one simple thing, right on the front of the Farmer's Advocate. You can see it there, the harvest out of Mundosa, the project that's going on there. The Mundosa grain growing project is in full scale. They're working very hard on it. Destiny Mackey, who of course still new to the Neepawa Banner Press, was able to write up a story, get some insight on how that's playing out. And we're very glad to be able to share that. If you're going to spend any time with it, that's the story you need to spend in the Farmer's Advocate on. We do have other things, some press releases, some information. Like I said, I really shouldn't be saying this. I'll probably hear it from Ken on that after it's all said and done. But what the heck? This is the story behind the story. And that's the story behind the Farmer's Advocate. It gets a little difficult, at the end of the year to find stuff that you like, that find stuff that's quite honestly good. But, we'll see how it plays out. Maybe we'll get to work now that the election's done. We'll get to work on next month's edition right now, and we'll get it, and it'll be super great. So we'll see how that goes. All right, let's get back to the A section. There's still so much to talk about, so much to cover in the A section. What was interesting is so much construction pictures going on. All the road work. If you live in Neepawa proper, you know all the road work that's going on right now. Maybe you're frustrated by all that road work that's going on. I mean, it feels like we're hours away from the first major snowfall, yet they're still out there doing construction at the Yellowhead Center, on Davidson, and now some new work being done. If you're frustrated by it, I understand that, but don't take it out on the representation for the town of Neepawa. Just between you and me, they're just as frustrated for the most part as you are. It's subcontracted out to other businesses. Other businesses, quite honestly, these contractors, they get big money contracts doing other stuff, and Neepawa, unfortunately, gets put by the wayside. So that's a frustrating part. I understand if you don't like that, but that's the reality of it. Quite honestly, if you get a paycheck that's double the size somewhere else to do the same work, you'd go and do that. I don't blame the contractors for that. It's just a little frustrating from time to time. And I do hope that they're going to get that work done before the snow falls. I don't know if they will, but I hope they do. So we'll keep an eye on that and see how that goes. As well, we got pictures on the Neepawa Middle School play structure that's been going up. Destiny has been going almost on a daily basis to get visual updates on that. So we got the most up-to-date picture in there. You can find it on page A9. As well, Destiny took the picture of the water and sewer upgrades that are going on in downtown Neepawa that we just talked about. So you can find that picture along with the leisure lottery story on page A8. All right, we've got a few minutes left here. I want to, since I'm the one here, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about sports this week than I normally am allowed to for the most part. So I had an opportunity to talk to head coach and general manager for the Titans, Ken Pearson, about the team's recent play. They've played about 18 games as we sit here and talk about the paper. Almost 1/3 through the season. So you have an idea, you have a gauge on who you have on your roster and what they can do. For the most part, they've been dealing with several injuries, especially to key veteran players. Now you can find that story on the A section on page, if I remember correctly, it is A11. And I talked to him about that, the frustration and of sort of getting that roster settled. Because when you have core players, like a half dozen core players, veteran players, leadership players that are out for one reason or another due to injury, it's hard to get that scoring touch going. That seems to be the big issue with the Titans right now. In this 13-team league, they are tied for 11th in scoring right now. They're doing what they can. They're trying to figure it out. They hope that now that some of these players are returning to the lineup, and they have returned to the roster, there's only 2 players out right now as we sit here and record this that are out due to injury. Those players are, let me just check again just to make sure, Cody Gunnison, center, obviously a big, huge part of the team, and goaltender Mason LeBreau. Those 2 individuals are still out right now and might be out for a couple more weeks. But he's hopeful that we're going to see the real version of the Neepawa Titans over the next little while. For the most part, the team is back with the exception of those 2 players. So he hopes to see some movement in the standings. Neepawa is last in the Eastern Division right now. I know it's disappointing, and they're disappointed by it either. But they're only about 3-4 points out of second place. The Western Division is so tight right now. The difference between second and sixth is minute. It's not like the other division where you have the Steinbach Pistons and the Portage Terriers, and then there's the rest of them. No, this is going to be a tight division all the way through. So hopefully Neepawa is going to be able to get their version of the team out there that they want to see out there and be able to make a move heading into that playoff push. All right. On a different level, it's actually happening right now as we speak down at the Yellowhead Center. The Slasher Showdown, the first major tournament of the year for the Neepawa Tigers high school hockey team. Very appreciative that they're able to put it on again in full scale as they did before the pandemic. They're very much looking forward to it. 6 teams participating. As we sit here, they've played 1 game right now. They opened it up against Crocus Plains Plainsmen, based out of Brandon, and Neepawa won that game 6-1. Obviously, I'll have more details on all of that in next week's edition of the Banner Press. But I had a chance to speak with Troy Brisser, if I remember correctly, about it. One of the coaches for the team. They're so excited to be able to get back to a return to normal sort of schedule for the team, normal season. And it's a great activity for Neepawa. Even if you don't have a son or anyone who's connected with the team, you should go down there and support them from time to time. It's always great to see that old barn sort of filled to capacity, or at least close to capacity. There's that certain energy to the Yellowhead Arena when you've got people in there. And on the high school level, it's a whole lot different because you got a lot more young people down there, and their energy is so much bigger and so much more different than, quite honestly, my energy at my age. So if you get a chance, go down there, support the team. Very appreciative of any and all of that. With a couple minutes left, I want to focus on one last story here. Very significant story, though. I saved, as it were, the best for last. NACTV, of course, had its annual general meeting recently, and they were able to talk about some of the highs and some of the lows and some of the challenges that they have dealt with as being an independently operated cable access channel, one of the few remaining in all of Western Manitoba. Because we're in Neepawa and because we sort of got used to NACTV, maybe we don't realize how special this actually is. It's not corporately owned. It's run by volunteers and by local individuals. And it's great to see. And it's great to see it doing well. Their net income over the year was $3,811.52. Maybe it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you pay all the bills, when you pay the budget for all the new upgrades, for all the improvements, for all the staff, and all the different things that have to go on, and you still got money in the bank, as far as I'm concerned nowadays, that's a huge plus. Because there's too many other groups, too many other organizations in this town that can't say that. That unfortunately do their best, do everything they can, and still end up losing money at the end of the day. So if you're able to put on a quality product, if you're able to put on a product that people enjoy and people appreciate, and you're able to walk away with a little extra money that you can put away into investment or into spending on the product itself for the future to ensure it's bigger and better for years to come, and that's huge. So Casper was able to go to the event. It took place, if I remember correctly, over at Kinsman Courts. Again, if I remember correctly, I might be misremembering, quite honestly there. The location for the most part doesn't matter perhaps, but the results from the AGM most definitely do. So it's great to be able to hear that they are succeeding, they are continuing to move forward in a positive way. Because otherwise, what would I do? I'd be just sitting here, complaining on a stoop somewhere, but I do it on TV, so it's legitimate. So there you go. So kudos to NACTV and their continued progress and movement forward. If you want to find out a little bit more about the board members for the upcoming year and some of their challenges and some of their triumphs, you can find it on page A16 of this week's edition of the Banner Press. There is so much more, quite honestly, we could talk about, but that's why you need to pick up a copy of the paper, a physical representation of it. Now, if you'd like to, you can go anywhere in Neepawa, pick it up at so many different businesses and whatnot. If you're outside of Neepawa, we hit so many other communities, and we appreciate your support on that. If you're not able to, if maybe, they ran out of paper somewhere, or, you don't want the ink on your fingers, you can find it online at mywestman.ca. Check it out on there. We got the digital version, essentially the representation of the paper right there on the screen with all the ads, all the pictures, all the content. So you can find it there. And if you happen to have any story ideas or suggestions, now that the election's done, we're going to have to come up with our own ideas. Oh, God. All right. So if you want to help out with that, that'd be greatly appreciated. Pardon me. And you can do so by contacting us at news@neepawabanner.com. Or if it's sports related as well, you can contact me directly at sports@neepawabanner.com. Any information on anything going on in and around Neepawa, we always appreciate it. We're a small paper. We try and be as regional as possible, but sometimes we just can't get out and about like we'd like. So anything you can do on that is appreciated. And don't forget, 476-3401, the number we can be reached at. So again, thank you to NACTV, and thank you for tuning in. Always appreciate you taking a little bit of your time and spending it right here on NACTV with us, the Neepawa Banner Press, and the story behind the stories.